Makena Zannini and Jen Dillard, welcome to the WorkPlay podcast.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having us,
having me.
Lyric. Super
I'm
excited to
saying
be here.
I'm so excited to have two guests on the podcast. We'll see how this goes in terms of audio. You guys are amazing entrepreneurs. I cannot wait to interview you, have you on the pod. Just for all of our listeners, this is going to be a lot more real estate heavy focused. I know that there's a lot of real estate and mortgage in our audience that are implementing the WorkPlay method. So this is 100% the episode for you. But even if you're not in the real estate market, I honestly, as a founder, like to hear what's happening in other industries and pull from inspiration. So if you aren't in the real estate industry, I still think you're going to get a lot out of this episode. So continue listening, even though you're not a real estate agent. I am so excited to dive in to all things that you guys are doing. But first, I just want to kind of get the lay of the land, who you guys are, how you guys came together, and what is the business.
I am a business support expert, business advisor. My business background, I have been working with small, medium-sized businesses for a long time now and really just doing what a lot of people consider to be like the boring part of the business, like the operations and the finance, all the back end stuff that I love, but I know is not everyone's favorite. And Jen and I have run in kind of similar circles for a long time now. And I'll let maybe her take over the story, but we met through my first business and now we're business partners. So I don't know, Jen, do you want to tell the
Yeah,
rest?
absolutely. So I've been in the real estate industry for over a decade, and I've been a solo agent. I've been a team lead. I've actually been an independent broker owner. I've pretty much done it all. Investor, developer, you name it. I've done it in the real estate space. And what I found is that I was hiring people for positions in-house that I really could have been outsourcing. And it took kind of going through everything crashing and burning in order to realize that I needed to find a different direction to go. And so I went searching for an answer. How do I find support in my business that I so desperately need, but at the same time keep my expenses as low as possible so I can continue to be profitable? And so I went searching for that. And, Makena and I, like she said, ran in the same circles. And, I thought of her and the boutique COO. And so I started using them as a client. And I had this light bulb go off in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot be the only real estate agent that needs this, that so desperately needs these services. And so Makena and I just decided to put together Brick by Brick Collective, put it together brick by brick. And we knew that it was going to be something that was needed, but we had no idea that the response was going to be as big as it's been. So it's been really fun.
So Jen, you are the one that is real estate heavy. Like you've been in the industry for the longest time, whereas Makena kind of comes in with these services, and we'll talk about them later in the episode. She kind of comes in with this expertise around systems that really helped you. Now, you had mentioned you really needed support. What was some of the things that were happening in your real estate business that you were like, I need support around this, and this, or I'm going to go insane?
Well, I live in a small town, and finding people to fill the skill sets that I need is really challenging because the pool is so small. And so I was filling positions for operations, for sales and marketing, those type of roles. I was filling them with people who I really liked as people, but they didn't have the skill sets in order to get us to where we needed to go. And so finding, being able to use brick by brick and being able to utilize this large pool of industry experts that are experts in their field of marketing, operations, and so on. It's just been such a game changer for my business.
And would you say, like, when you were trying to find these people, was the brokerage the one providing these people? Did they offer any type of support? Like, can you kind of paint that picture for
Yeah.
us?
So the brokerage doesn't provide that kind of support. So I needed support for my team, and I run, a team of anywhere between 10 to 15 agents, depending on, where we're at. But we need systems and processes, onboarding. We need marketing, open house collateral and listing collateral. And sometimes it's logos and branding, and there's things that pop up consistently. We need to make sure that we're marketing our listings and getting them in front of the most buyers as possible.
I think it's interesting that you're saying that because I met with a lot of WorkPlay members and real estate agents that are within the membership that we have. And I don't think they realize how much goes into that. Like I almost get a sense that they expect the brokerage to do that for them. And then they are kind of like, oh, I thought that this would be easier than it is. And now I'm stuck with all of this work. I know that you have a full team. When do you feel like real estate agents need this type of support? I can imagine not everyone listening has a full team of agents under them. So, what does it look like for that solo real estate agent trying to make it in their city?
I would say there's a significant number of our clients, which maybe even majority, are solo agents, and they need support too because they are on their own. They're wearing every hat. They're wearing operations, marketing. A lot of them don't have assistants. And so they're running and they're trying to run listing appointments, work with buyers and do showings. They're having to come back and do transaction coordination. And that is a lot of work. And as real estate agents, most of us have the skill set of being able to be great negotiators, great at sales, great at working with people, but operations, usually not so much. Marketing, not so much. I mean, those all require different skill sets. When you're trying to do everything, you end up doing everything kind of okay instead of doing one thing really well.
That's why I said at the beginning of this episode, it doesn't matter who you are, if you're a real estate agent or not. I think every entrepreneur struggles with that. And sometimes I almost feel that real estate agents sometimes think that they have exclusive problems or like they've got unique problems. Whereas if you look at entrepreneurship in as a whole, it tends to follow the same themes here. So what are you guys doing? Like you guys came together. What is this business? Because I actually think it's really cool. And I think that we just kind of need to know what exactly how it all works.
Just to comment quickly before we move on to the actual business itself, I think your point is so spot on, Lyric, that I think this happens not just in real estate, but in so many industries. Because my flagship business, we work across industries, right? And so there's so many people who are like, well, my industry is different. My industry is like, has different problems. And yes, of course, there's nuances to every industry, right? But there are very common things. And one of the most common things that we see is someone goes into business, they become a realtor, they become an interior designer, they own their own electrician business, whatever it is, because they're really good at that, right? Like you become a real estate agent because you're really good at making relationships and doing sales and handling objections and matchmaking properties and people. But you might not like really be bargaining for the fact that you're signing up for the operations and the marketing and the bookkeeping. And that happens across all industries. So I just wanted to kind of like emphasize that I totally agree. I think like there's just so many people who go into business and maybe don't really expect what all that they're signing up for by doing that. But in terms of what we do at Brick by Brick, I think of it as like team augmentation for business support. So what does that actually mean? Like practically, basically, if you have administrative tasks, for example, you are drowning in your email, you have missed a couple meetings because your calendar is a disaster, right? Like that might make you think like, maybe I should get an assistant. Maybe I should get someone to support me with that. But likely if you're a small business owner, you don't really even know where to start with hiring an assistant. You don't know where to find them. And you probably can't afford to have one full time, or it might not be the wisest like financial decision for your business. And so we offer like highly vetted, US based, trained people to basically do those jobs. And we do that across operations, marketing, and finance. So some of the most common things that we do are like EA work. We do a lot of social media management type of work. And then we also do a lot of bookkeeping. And those just tend to be like the most common things that we do. And in Brick by Brick, we also have added another fourth bucket, which is transaction coordination, which is a huge service that pretty much every agent needs and is kind of crucial to getting the deal across the line, right? So that just is a really natural extension too of what we offer. And so it's all completely by the hour, completely fractional, really just meant to kind of ebb and flow with people's businesses.
So are you guys finding the team members and then pairing them with the agent or with the business owner? How does that all work? How like seamless is that? I would imagine that everyone has their own way of doing things. Do you kind of hand over, hey, this is how we do it? Or are you coming in and being custom with the person that's going through the process? Like how integrated are you in their business?
This is, I think, where it gets really unique. The way that we do things is we're completely custom and integrated. Someone might come in and be like, well, I'll only work with you if you use HubSpot, or only work with you if you use Follow Up Boss, or only work with you if you label your emails this way. We're the total opposite of that. I am like very much of the opinion that every business owner needs to do things in a way that works for them. And every business is different in some way, and every business owner is different, right? And so I think we really take the approach that if you have a system that you like and you just need someone to come in and run it, great, we'll happily support you in that. You know, we don't want to just like force you to change and fit into this box, even if it doesn't make sense for you. We sometimes have like group text chats with clients. We will do like calls for other ones. Other people are like, please don't ever text me or call me. I'll never get back to you. Please email me, right? Like, and it's just a personal preference. And the same thing is just with any of the work that we do. So we really try to meet people where they're at. I think that's just part of the ethos. You know, on the other hand, sometimes we get people who are like, help, I don't know even where to start. I don't have any systems. I don't have any marketing. Like I have nothing. Or if I have something, I hate it and I want to start over, you know, and we can totally offer that recommendation and like be that strategic partner, but we're not going to come in and like force it.
That makes sense. And that was honestly going to be my next question of what if someone's coming to you with absolutely nothing? Because I mean, I do meet people that have no idea what an SOP is, what a system is. It's like you're talking in a different language to them. So how do you kind of bridge that gap when you do have someone that comes in? Because I would imagine that that can be a little bit scary. And when you have no systems in your business, you're not knowing where to start. I don't even think you have the understanding of what it could be and how it could look and what it could feel like, because you're just feeling like the chaos of it all.
I feel like those clients are honestly sometimes even better because it's a clean slate. They see results even faster because they're not doing anything right now. So I think that starting from scratch isn't always a bad thing. Another thing that makes Brick by Brick unique as opposed to other services that I've, tried in my career is that we are hourly. So it's not like a one size fits all that actually doesn't fit all package. And we customize it and build the scope of work around what your needs are. And then there's no long-term commitment. So there's not really a big risk. It's just you try it, and the majority of our clients love it. We have a high retention rate. They love it. And then they continue to add more and more and more.
When we're talking about systems as a strategy, I love geeking out on systems. So having you guys on is like creme de la creme. I'm so excited. I want to understand, and I want listeners to understand why systems are so important to making more revenue in your business and all of the different things that you want to do. Like, why is that so important to a business's profitability, revenue? How does that all tie together?
Oh, this is like a whole can of worms. Do you want to go there?
Oh, I want to go there
Open the Pandora's box.
no, because I'm like, look, if you don't think systems are sexy, we got to switch that around because there is power in your systems.
This
Totally.
is McKenna's this gets her more excited.
Don't get me started. Yeah.
Oh, McKenna, give them what they want.
Okay. What I think a system is basically it's like a recipe, right? Like you can just like go to make brownies and you'd be like, oh, I think maybe I need like a little more egg. I think a little more flour. Like, let's just throw it together and hope for the best. And you know what? It's probably going to taste terrible, like bad idea. And I think the system is basically just as simple. I just think of it as like a recipe of like, okay, what's an onboarding system? Someone signed my contract. They're ready to go. They're super hyped to work with us. And then what are the steps? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 to get them to the point where they're ready to work with us, right? And it's as simple as that. And I always tell people like, what's the system or the CRM that's the best CRM is the one that you use or something. Like people just, I think like try to over engineer it so much and have this like, oh, we need this crazy big funnel and all these automations. And yes, of course, like we can work towards that. But if you don't even have a like, okay, lead comes in the door and you don't know what you're doing with that lead and when you're doing it, let's just start there, And for me, it's really like looking at the things that you do every day in your business to make your business just like run and putting it literally down on paper in a set of steps. Like it's as simple as that, in my opinion.
And then Jen, like, because you are really that real estate expert who's been implementing some of Makena's systems, right? And her team, how has that created revenue in your own business?
Before working with the team, I really was kind of just winging it. I was figuring things out as I went rather than having a strategic plan for social media, a strategic plan for listing launch, strategic plan for once a listing goes live, what does that look like? And how do we continue to make sure to market these listings? And also, how do we get in front of more people and get more listings? So all of that was just kind of happening as we went. But because we have these strategies and systems and processes in place, we're seeing that we're getting a lot more clients coming in because they're seeing us more. We're posting more consistently. We're sending out more mailers consistently. The email newsletters going out consistently. So it's all about consistency. And when you're able to show your availability, credibility, your authenticity, all of that consistently, then there's a return in business.
I love that. And as far as I know that you had mentioned content, and I want to kind of switch gears into that because WorkPlay members are constantly creating visual assets for their business.
Yeah.
And I almost want to give the real estate agents almost like a crash course in all of that with you, Jen. And we can get into the system of it and like the strategy behind it. But let's kind of dive into how important that is in terms of perception and content when it comes to real estate. I think a lot of real estate agents are a little behind, if I have to guess. WorkPlay really grew inside of the real estate industry, and I have a feeling it's because they felt behind in the content department in showcasing who they are, their own personal brands. Is there power in the personal brand when it comes to real estate agents, and how do you harness that and then create a system for it?
I think that the first step is just really figuring out who are you? Who are you and why would somebody resonate with you? I think that a lot of real estate agents get in this habit of just posting credibility, which is just listed, just sold. And they get in this habit of posting consistently, but they're posting templates, just listed, just sold, just listed, just sold. But how does that differentiate you from another real estate agent who's also selling? And so I think it's really important to showcase, what do you like to do for fun? Do you have a family? You can share that if you're comfortable. I have pillars that I have come up with that are important for me to put out there so that people know that I am a mom, I am a wife, I like to work out, I like to travel. And I also do sell a lot of real estate. I also have another business. And so if you look at my grid and you look at my Instagram and you look at my grid, you'll see all the different pillars that are important to me and that are also showcasing who I am as a real estate agent. So people know who they're going to work with right away. And we all know that people work with people that they know, like, and trust. So if they can feel, just by looking at your profile, they can feel like they know who you are, they like you, and they feel like they can trust you because you've shown your credibility, it's an easy in.
It's so funny because I used to hear this. The real estate agents be so focused on posting their listings. And I have always felt, from like someone who's not a real estate agent, but someone who has used a real estate agent in the past, I'm like, I can kind of go to Zillow to see what's in my area. You know, like I'm not really going to my realtor for specifically that when it comes to like Instagram. So I think it's very helpful for you to explain, like, yes, we need to bring in who we are into our content. When it comes to posting listings and sold, do those have a place in the pillars? And if so, like, how do we integrate those in? Because I just know all of my real estate members are like, I need to post my listings. So
Absolutely. But what I do and what I think is really helpful is don't just post a template that says just listed. That is not helpful. Yeah, we can see that on Zillow. We can see that on other websites. So how can you market a listing without just using a template? Well, you can do a listing video and you can have an agent introduction with yourself. You do not have to have a videographer. You can flip your camera around and you can introduce a home. You can set up a tripod. Your iPhone or your phone is totally capable of recording this kind of content. And then you can do a walkthrough and show what's great about the home. I would rather see that as a consumer than seeing just a picture and some text that says just listed. So really showcasing the property. And if you don't feel comfortable on video, have it be a carousel that you can flip through, that you can see the photos and you can get an idea. Also, what is in that area? When you're selling a home, you're not just selling a home, you're selling the lifestyle. What is it about the area where the home is listed that would make people want to live there? So I think that those things are really important. As far as just sold, tell the story. How did it sell? What was the story of the buyer? What was the story of the seller, whoever you were working with? What was it that they fell in love with? How fast did it sell? Did it sell super fast? Was it multiple offers? Like, that's the stuff that people want to know.
so interesting. And now, McKenna, I want to bring it back to you because Jen's like, we've got the 5 pillars. We want to make sure it's engaging, the content around what you're posting. How do we systemize that on the back end? Like, how do we actually make this a reality when honestly, real estate agents are the busiest people I know? Like, how do we actually execute this?
Totally. And I think really it comes down to like the infrastructure is what I think about rather than the content itself. So I think it's very tempting to templatize your content. Oh, here's my 6 templates that I use for reels or for like posts or whatever. And yes, there's a place for templates, like a just listed template, totally. Just sold template, that makes sense, right? Like, or a couple of versions of a template for that, totally. I'm here for that. What I feel like doesn't make sense is like using very templated and overly generic posts for everything single thing that you put on your socials. And I think what makes that tricky to systematize is that if it's not templated, it has to come from somewhere. And ideally it's coming from you as the person whose personal brand it is, right? So it's like, how do I systematize it and how do I outsource it without losing that authenticity? And it's truly my thoughts, my feelings, my opinions, my experiences, right? And so there's a couple ways to do this. One is there's a ton of like infrastructure that you can set up to set yourself up for success. So like we often will use Notion boards where we keep track of what's going to be posted. And sometimes it's just a blank space in the Notion board because we don't know yet what's going to be posted. And we leave a few blank spots for things to evolve or change or have ideas, a new listing that's going to come on that we might not know about right now, but we'll kind of save space for that in advance. So you're pre-planning some content, but you're leaving some sort of like flexibility in that process. I would say also figuring out a templated way to get content from you to whoever's making your social media post. So if you're not the one actually posting on your socials, if you're having someone support you, thinking about like for me, voice notes work really well. I run a lot of miles every week. And so I literally like voice note my team while I'm running. And I just am like, today I had a meeting with this person and I did this thing and this happened that was kind of annoying. And like, I just basically just ramble effectively. And it gives them a lot to work with because otherwise they're sort of pulling from thin air and like hoping it sounds authentic to me. Instead, I'm voice noting them, or I'll sometimes like we'll get on a call with my personal social media team from our team and talk to them about whatever. And it gives them ideas of what to post on socials. Other people, like Jen is a great example of this. Jen has a lot of content from speaking engagements. And so you can use that and have your team like listen to your speaking, read articles you've written, listen to podcast episodes you've been on, and use that as inspiration too, you know? And so I think it's how do you systematize getting the content from you, from your brain to your team, and then your team can make a whole process and a system and make the post, you approve it, it goes up. Like that part's really easy. I think the biggest part is how do you get the content out of your brain in a systematic way so that the content still feels authentic.
You know, if you're not that type of person, if you're not like somebody who's super creative, you can also be scrolling on Instagram and see something that you find entertaining or visually pleasing or whatever it is. Send that to the team that you're working with and say, I'd like to recreate something like this, but related to real estate and with my tone of voice or something like that. And that's also really helpful.
I always come to this in almost every single episode. There's this level of self-awareness that you have to have. You have to be aware of what feels easy for you, what feels good for you, and then play off of that. Like what I'm hearing from you guys is not one size fits all, but there are ways to bring them into systematic formats. Now, I kind of want to switch gears into really diving in for our WorkPlay members who are having an upcoming shoot, having a photo shoot, having a video shoot. What kinds of content in the more produce and editorial world should they be creating for their real estate personal brand? What would be the most effective to focus on in the next 3 months?
I feel like what people don't get enough of is B-roll. And it doesn't even like, I think a shoot is super great, but have somebody at the shoot recording content behind the scenes of the photographer taking the photos of you. So I think that's great. Yes, the photo shoot itself is super important, but also have somebody behind the scenes getting additional B-roll content. Are you talking about photos, Lyric, or video?
Yeah, it can be photos or video. So throughout the WorkPlay method, they can choose photos or video. They can also choose iPhone content. So if they want more organic looking content, they can also choose that. So there's a few mediums that they can do. They can also do video with audio. So it depends on their personal preference every single quarter what they want to create.
I'm going to give you a few. So if you're shooting video content, I would say buyer want videos are one of my favorite things to shoot lately. And that's something like, hi, I'm Jen Dillard. I'm a real estate agent in Hood River. I have a buyer. Their names are Luke and Julie. They are looking for a house in the West Side neighborhood under $1.2 million. They don't have to sell a house in order to buy. If this sounds like something that you have, I'd love to hear from you. So like a buyer want video, I feel like those are really effective. I would definitely record some of those. I would record knowledge broker content. Make sure people know that you are the knowledge broker in your area. Well, how do you do that? You do that by talking about the market, what's happening in the market, case studies of what you're currently seeing. I had a client, they thought that they weren't going to be able to find a house. We went off market. We looked at every house that's off market. That's something that fits the criteria of what they're looking for. We were able to secure them a home. So show proof, social proof that you've done what they want you to do. And then as far as photos go, I think that anything that you can use that you can put text over is really helpful. So like you working on your computer, taking a phone call, have it be authentic, really be taking a phone call, just showing your personality. I just think that make sure you're smiling, make sure you're happy, you're not just always super serious, and show them that you're warm and fuzzy to work with.
I would also say like sharing in a way that's really authentic too. Jen did a really great video recently, and obviously you don't need to do the exact same thing, but just I thought the concept was really cool. She just had a conversation with someone about how she hates virtual staging on listings and thinks it's kind of lazy. And she turned her iPhone camera around. She was in her office. I don't think she really had planned on filming this. And she just filmed it in her office and was just like, you know what? Like virtual staging to me is like catfishing. And she just went on to talk for like a minute and a half about how it's like catfishing someone. You show up to the house, it's empty, and you're like, what is happening? You know? And that post to me was like one of the best posts that Jen had made in like the last couple of weeks because it was so relatable. Like I'm not a real estate agent, but I was like, oh, that is so true. I thought about my experience buying a house and how like I hated when a house didn't look like what it said it was going to look like, right? And so like I think relatable content too. Like there's a place for the highly produced, like scripted stuff or the really high quality video B-roll. Like that stuff does really well on the algorithm, increasingly so.
I'm going to ruffle some feathers, but I feel the same way about AI headshots.
Yes. That's not ruffling. Is that ruffling feathers? It shouldn't be.
I agree. I'm like, look, it's like we're interacting in the real world. And so people are craving that because there is so much of AI, because there is so much technology that you can get your hands on. I had no idea that you could virtually stage. If that's going to become the norm, like what then can you do that is outside of the norm? And I think it just circles back to like doing the thing that no one else is doing, being authentic to you. But I've also noticed that there is a culture sometimes of real estate agents want to be different, but then at the same time, they're trying so hard to fit into their brokerage. They're trying so hard to fit in with their peers. And I think it's great that you guys are saying, no. It's okay to be different. It's actually way better to be different.
Yeah. I mean, you want to stand out. Why would somebody want to work with you over somebody else? Right. You need to be different.
Yeah. And I think just giving that permission is a breath of fresh air. So how are you guys working together with Jen? Obviously, your wealth of knowledge in the real estate industry and then Makena with the systems. How are you guys meshing those two? Jen, you just came in with all of this knowledge about how real estate agents should be showing up. Like, how does that fit in with Makena's systems?
This is the first time I've ever had a business partner, and it has been like such a great experience, honestly. And I think that that comes down to a few things. It's kind of like a marriage in a way. Like, I feel like Jen and I are very aligned on a values perspective, a vision perspective. Like, we're both very like, keep your side of the street clean, do the right thing, like kind of people. And I think that if you don't agree with that on your business partner, I feel like that's a problem. Same thing with communication. We're both very just like, let's just be upfront. Let's just talk about things. Like, and I think that if you don't establish that upfront and you don't have that alignment with your business partner, like forget it. It's never going to work. But I think what's really special about Jen and I as partners is that we have such different skill sets. And I think that in a way, we sort of amplify each other's skill sets, and it naturally creates like a separation of like, she's bringing this and I'm bringing this. And we don't feel like we have to work too hard to differentiate like who does what, because it's just so natural, you know, it's sort of like how my husband and I are. Like, he's good at some stuff, I'm good at other stuff. And like, we just sort of naturally divide and conquer because of that. Right. And so I had already, through my flagship business, developed all this IP IP, right? I like kind of made a bunch of mistakes already of how do I do stuff and like played around with stuff and what works and what doesn't. And so I already have the benefit of having pretty developed IP. And then Jen comes in and brings a few things. One is like the lived experience. And that's something that I just could never bring to this. Obviously, I don't have that background. And so I'll never forget, like early on in Brick by Brick, I wrote an email follow up to one of our leads, and Jen was like, "Can I rewrite it?" I am still learning how to like speak the language, quote unquote, of real estate agents, right? And so like to have someone who's able to be like, that's not going to resonate is so valuable. And so I think that's the first thing. I think second thing is Jen is just like a mega connector. Like she's just really, really excellent at that. And so she's been able to take the IP that I've developed on the operational side and sort of like amplify that in a way that it connects with so many more people and make it like feel relevant to every individual person that we meet in a way that I think is just hard to do because I'm an operator, right? Like I'm like a ones and zeros, like numbers, like get shit done type of person. And I don't necessarily live in the world of like connection and community in the same way. It's hard to balance both. So for us, it's been really natural in a way that's been great.
Yes.
And I think it's such a superpower to have kind of you in that world for real estate in general, for the industry as a whole, because you're not coming at it from the lens of a real estate agent, which is actually a good thing, I think. And Jen, you probably know that because you hired her first, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost a superpower to know what's happening in other industries, bring it to a different industry and say, no, you guys are doing it all wrong. That's why I'm like, I love that you guys are coming together on this because you're getting such a value add with the two of you. Because Jen, you know the industry, but Makena, you know the other industries and how operations work. Like I said, like real estate sometimes can be a little outdated with their systems, with their marketing. You guys are going to do amazing things. And I know that you guys already have done amazing things. Where can everyone connect with you guys? Each of you, brick by brick, the whole 9 yards. And how can they get in touch?
Definitely. You can find us each with just our names on Instagram, which you'll have a better time finding Jen than me with my name. But through Jen, you can find me, so it's fine. Jen Dillard and Makena Zannini on Instagram. Our company is Brick by Brick Collective, also on Instagram and brickbybrickcollective.com. So yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone. And thank you so much for having us, Lyric.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so excited for you guys, and I cannot wait for all of our WorkPlay members who are real estate agents to come and implement some kick-ass systems because I know that's what you guys are doing over there.
Absolutely. We would love to help.
Thank